Welcome to the Somewhat Frank podcast, hosted by me, Frank Gruber, and joined by my friends and colleagues, Jen Consalvo and John Guidos. This podcast explores the latest trends and advancements in technology and business, including emerging startups and how they shape today while looking forward towards the future. We also enjoy testing new gadgets and products and sharing our findings too, along with our favorite pop culture picks like music, books, and what we're streaming. This podcast is produced in collaboration with our company, Established. Ready to dive in? Time to be somewhat frank. Welcome back to Somewhat Frank Podcast, the Halloween edition. I'm your host, Frank Gruber, or am I? I don't know. Today, I'm Clark Kent. Happy Halloween, everybody. I'm joined today by John Guidos, Jen Consalvo, and Simon Kahan. Also not who they are today. How y'all doing? All right, let's go around the horn. Johnny, what are you up to?
We're doing great, Frank. Today, I am Hulkamaniac, the Hulkster. I'm the real American. So the funnier part of my costume actually isn't here today. It's my lovely wife. She's going as Macho Man. And those fans of early 80s WWE or WWF at the time know Macho Man, and the Hulkster used to get into it every once in a while. So, and she's like a 5 foot tall little Macho Man. She's a girl version of the Macho Man outfit. So it's really pretty funny. We're going to some Halloween parties. So we're going to be doing some pumpkin carving coming up here soon, and just getting into that spirit of Halloween, as we're going to be talking about on this episode. So things are good over here.
All right. Next up, Jen, how are you doing? We got a devil over there.
Hello, everyone. Oh my God, all that conversation about WWF and E and all that stuff takes me back to being a kid when my friends were obsessed with it. But I'm a devil. I've actually, it's like probably like in the top 5 costumes of all time, right? Like that just people throw on the horns and go to, but I've never been a devil before. So this is the year.
Well, it couldn't be further from the truth. You're truly not a devil, but.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Jumping in. What have you been up to?
Kind of excited that, the leaves have changed. It's beautiful. It's getting chilly. I'm actually kind of excited that it's the end of the soccer season for us, like little kids soccer, because we've been out there a lot. And excited to do some other things. Like we've not gone apple picking or done any of that other stuff that people do this time of year. Excellent.
And it's starting to get cooler too. We had a soccer game last night under the lights, and it was pretty chilly.
It was brisk.
Yeah, very brisk in the 30s. All right, Simon, you're not yourself today. What's up? How are you doing?
So today, as you can see, I am Harry Potter. If he ended up going to like public school or something. I have this little guy, and then I also have a broom behind me. It was either this or Waldo. Those are my 2 routine Halloween outfits as a tall, lanky guy. And I'm happy to be here.
What have you been up to? Simon, I almost was Waldo. We could have been dueling Waldos, because I do enjoy that costume as well.
All right. So quick tangent. I had this really great idea for if I were to dress as Waldo, and then all my friends would dress like sort of like Waldo, and then surround me at a party or something. And then we're like the Where's Waldo. I didn't get a great reception to it, to be honest. I think it's a great idea.
I think you should do that. I think it would work out perfectly. We have some friends that used to do that, and it was a lot of fun. So definitely try it sometime. Maybe not this year, but next year. All right. What have you been up to? You almost get hit by a car?
Yeah. Right? So about 30 minutes ago, I was on my way. I was getting a chicken parm from this place right next to me. And I was crossing the street in a crosswalk, and this car very close. Like I wouldn't exaggerate, very closely almost hit me. And I wanted to do the New York thing of like yelling at them or like, hey, but I'm so nervous that they would start yelling at me back. So I kind of just let it slide. But yeah, almost got hit by a RAV4.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Got to look both ways. And obviously sometimes people are distracted and it causes problems. So be careful out there. All right. What am I? I am Clark Kent, as you can see. But we got a little bit of a chicken update. This ties back to some of our early podcasts. So if people have been listening for a while, you're going to know what we're talking about. But Johnny's a chicken farmer, yard farmer. He got me into yard farming mostly because of my little one, and trying to find something to kind of work with that would allow her to kind of get to know, basically have some motivation for the end of school year and all that. So it was like a reward if she went to school every day. Anyway, long story short, we started, we had these chickens. We now have 7 chickens that we started raising in May. It's now October. We finally got our first egg. Woo! First egg. Can't believe it. We'll bring a shot here of it. It's a beautiful egg. It's brownish toned, and Dottie was the first to do it. Good for her. And hopefully we get more than one. But this particular egg, as John, cost me about $3,000. All in.
They're not cheap. So Frank, I wanted to ask you this. I was actually thinking about this last night. Are you going to eat the first egg?
I want to eat the first egg because I've worked so hard for it.
Well, it's supposed to be good luck if you do eat the first egg. So just so you know.
Well, then I definitely will eat that. I love eggs and all that. But the thing about it is my little one does not want to eat the first egg because now we've gotten so close to these chickens. And to be honest with you, she doesn't even eat the chicken meat anymore. She won't eat chickens. So it's really taken a turn here as you start raising animals and whatnot. It becomes difficult. And we obviously had a lot of tragedy along the way. It's been a journey with these chickens, and I'm very excited about actually having an egg. And these chickens are supposed to raise or lay 200-ish eggs a year each, some of them. So we're gonna have a lot of eggs if it all works out. So
we have 3 chickens, and we have more eggs than we know what to do with. And you have what, 9 now?
Well, no, we're down to 7. We lost
7.
Lost a few good ones along the way. Not in a we rehomed them, and they're in a better place because you can't have what we learned. You can't have roosters. We think we have one more rooster. We're not sure because you don't know until they start crowing. And this one, we kind of think he is a rooster, and we're concerned now because if they start laying, we literally have a rooster in the hen house, which could mean we'd have a lot more chicks, which we don't need more chicks. That's a whole other thing, but it's been quite a journey as you know, and winter's coming, so I'm getting ready for that. So that's been a lot of fun. But switching gears here, since we're on the Halloween edition, this is the Halloween edition of Somewhat Frank. Some Halloween fun facts to set the tone here, and then we're gonna obviously jump into some important news that's been going on around the world. First off, if you don't know, Halloween goes back to the Celtic festival of Samhain, which on October 31st, people believed spirits would, cross over. And so they lit bonfires and they got in costumes probably like Hulk Hogan and Superman and warded them off. So that's what they did. And eventually the church kind of took that and kind of continued to morph and got rebranded as All Hallows Eve, which was the day before All Saints Day. And eventually it became Halloween as we know it today. Actually, Irish immigrants in the 1800s brought their customs into it as well, into America, and they like to carve turnips and go trick-or-treating. So those were adopted and it continued to grow. And then obviously it shifted in the 20th century over to parades, parties, transforming into kind of this neighborhood gathering. And now it's a commercial event of the fall, right? We've got costumes, candy, haunted houses, all rooted in this Celtic tradition from way back. And it's not just that; it actually generates a ton of revenue for the whole thing, right? It's a $10 billion annual industry of spending on Halloween decorations, costumes, parties, all that stuff. One of the biggest events, obviously, after right after Christmas. So not from a time perspective, but as a numbers perspective. And the one other fun fact: $3 billion in candy sales during Halloween. That's eye-opening. So a lot of fun going on, and we'll insert some other fun facts as we go and draw back to some of the kind of the interesting things that are going around Halloween. But all right, we're gonna jump in first with a little bit more our favorite AI company, I guess you could say, because we talk about it a lot. I don't know if it's our favorite, but we talk about it a lot. OpenAI it unveiled an experimental swarm framework, and it's igniting debate about AI-driven automation. So what does that even mean? It sounds kind of scarier than it is, I think, but simple kind of setup here is that you've got these smart AI robots. They're not actually physical robots, they're just AI on the computer, and they're working together to solve problems, generate puzzles, figure things out, right? So if it was in the real world, it'd be like building a Lego tower, and each robot has actually got a small piece of the tower that they have to assemble or whatever. And so the whole point is, if you get a bunch of robots working together, just like if you had a bunch of people working together, you can go further faster. So I don't know, what anybody want to jump in on this with a first thought?
Just my initial thought there is that there must have been someone who was in charge of naming it, and they must have thought that was a really scary intimidating name, and they went for it anyways. So I would just be curious to know what the rationale behind the naming convention is. But it sounds really cool.
Yeah, I mean, there is another app called Swarm. It was from Foursquare. I don't know if you ever were familiar with that or not, but it was where you checked in location based, and actually, there's still a lot of people using it. In New York, it started, but now it's kind of everywhere. But yeah, so it is an interesting name for it because it does kind of still, you know, draw light to like Terminator kind of stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
guy taking over kind of stuff, right? So
Well, it's
yeah,
never good if anything's swarming you. You know, I
no,
feel like you want to avoid swarms throughout your life, I imagine.
It's tough branding, like you said. But what I think is interesting is it seems to be an iteration of the logic that they're using for some of these AI-driven products, right? And in doing so, I think some of the security concerns come from points of failure. Because if you have all these different machines that are working together to finish a product, just like you have a product team with individuals on the team, if you have different points of failure in between people or robots, for example, there could be some issues there. But to me, it just seems like the next step in the next iteration in the right direction.
It's really interesting, John. I was talking to someone yesterday about we all know that AI can eventually have hallucinations, right? Like that's a thing. And we were talking about how it kind of starts to feel like, how you at a company when you might have a lot of really, really smart engineers or scientists, and there's always that one who's like brilliant. They have their own corner office in the basement, like to be left alone. And like sometimes the things they come up with are just kind of wacky, right? Like they're genius, but they also have all these wacky ideas. So to me, the first things that comes to mind is like, can all these, can the swarm start to help root out the crazy, right? Or start to normalize or start to find the anomalies, not just the errors, but the things that might just be bringing you in the wrong direction. So I'm hopeful about it and hope that, again, like steps like this, I guess it could go in a lot of directions, but maybe it can help to root out the hallucinations and the ideas that may be adrift.
the obviously spark of debate here is around like these what's the impact, right, of these agents working together. And obviously you mentioned some things, Jen and John, of ways this could be used, for good. There's always the negatives, right? Like people think about security, they think about the fact that there could be biases that then are, go to each one of these bots or involved in the work that's being done. And then obviously the big one is job displacement. Like if we get all these AI bots working together, what do they need us for, kind of thing, right? So I don't know if there's anything we can do to kind of stop that other than maybe figure out other roles how we kind of control the situation. Right. So but
that gets us into policy, right? That's about looking at society and asking those big questions, and because companies aren't necessarily going to, they're commercial. They're commercial enterprises. They're going to do what they want to do. So who's going to care about society at large? It's probably not the companies, especially when they've been getting rid of their ethics folks. So that's a much larger question about what AI can do and how we manage roles and jobs and all of that.
right, because now you're managing AI, you're not just managing people, right? You're managing, they're doing their thing over here, or whatever that is.
Well, or the extent that they can be allowed to displace. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, right now it's still a little bit of the Wild West. I don't think that we're even there yet. Or, when you start involving policy, and I'm not arguing against it, Jen, I think there needs to be some oversight, but things tend to slow down significantly, right? And then, or they could. And then two is, like all of the scraping that's being done right now, all of well, not all, but I believe a lot of the information that they're using to power the AI is just stuff off the internet. Could be trademarked, could be copyrighted, et cetera. And there's going to be a lot of litigation around that in the very near future. There already is. But, if you were to regulate the scraping by itself, the ingestion of all of the data, you're slowing things down probably by 10x at least, right? So not arguing against oversight, but could slow down and have some negative effects as well. So there's a balance to be made, I think.
Yeah, as you say that, I mean, if for example, OpenAI had implemented their products incredibly slowly and went through lawsuit after lawsuit and like negotiations before actually kind of scraping all the information, I imagine we wouldn't even be here today. Like there's just so much red tape and bureaucratic obstacles in the way. I mean, ChatGPT wouldn't be here today.
Well, we wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be here this fast, number one. And then number
Yeah.
two is also the lawsuits is that they're going through it. And I guarantee you from a risk management standpoint, they've baked in all of the, they're going to lose some of those lawsuits. So it's risk profile. How much are they willing, so they have a budget allocated towards losing some of those lawsuits, but the value of the company being a $1 trillion company is far outweighs getting hit with couple $1 billion worth of lawsuits, that sort of a thing, so that all is going on right now. I can assure you that.
And that's another reason they're raising so much money, right? Like they need a lot of the coffers to be able to handle some of those items. Obviously, there's just a lot of different, areas where they need to throw money at it to continue the progress. I should mention before we move on here, Swarm is not an official product. It's positioned as a tool for developers right now to kind of allow them to kind of work and figure out how to leverage it, and then obviously get other bots working on it for you. So that's interesting. And then yeah, but they obviously see a significant influence potentially in enterprise AI. So
what I was just thinking about is what if one of us on this podcast says something like groundbreaking, it gets picked up by some sort of like CNN or like one of the big media players, and we're dressed like this.
It's the Halloween edition. I should mention again, if
Yeah.
anybody jumping in, we do not have Hulk Hogan on the call today or on the pod, but he is here actually. Hulk Hogan's here. We got a devil, we got Harry Potter, and we've got Clark Kent, and we're all here because it's a Halloween edition. We don't generally dress up like this, so I should mention that. And that's a good segue, actually, John, for a Halloween fun fact. Jen, do you have the first Halloween fun fact for this special edition of Somewhat Frank?
Yes, I do. Halloween fun fact, the origins of the jack-o'-lanterns. So let's see. So once again, this comes from an Irish myth about old Stingy Jack. So according to legend, Jack tricked the devil multiple times, was condemned to wander the earth with only burning coal inside a carved out turnip that's kind of small though, to light his way. So Irish immigrants brought this tradition to America, where pumpkins were more native to the region and became their carving choice. So here we are with the jack-o'-lantern, Stingy Jack.
Interesting. Thanks for that fun fact. I do love pumpkins. We're going to talk about pumpkins a little bit more later. Anybody fans of the pumpkin latte though? I'm curious. Show of hands.
I love the pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah, there you go.
I never feel great about ordering it in public, however.
I'm a little on the fence. I love pumpkin related stuff, but I feel like it's just a little too spicy for me, a little too pumpkin-y for me. I'm more of like a I don't know, natural pumpkin eater. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I'll make a suggestion for all of our listeners. I don't know if anybody here on this call has ever had a pumpkin pie from Costco.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, we should mention we are not receiving any funding for this. This is not a promo. But the Costco pumpkin pies are unreal.
Really?
There's something about them. They're creamy. They're like, I don't even know how to explain it, but they're amazing.
You need to
get yourself a Costco pumpkin pie, and they're huge. They're like, I don't know, they're probably 24 inches in diameter or circumference, they're only like $4.99 or something crazy. They're like a loss leader. They're kind of like the Costco rotisserie chickens.
Wow. Did not know about these pumpkin pies. I think you do need a membership, Simon, to answer your question, or you can maybe borrow somebody's. I don't know if they let you do that or have ad people. But what I was going to say is I'm totally like spoiled on pumpkin pie. Jen's mom makes the best pumpkin pie I've ever eaten in my life. And she sometimes subs it out for squash, and you can't even tell the difference because squash and pumpkin are like so close to each other. And yeah, so I'm like super I guess, yeah, spoiled. Sorry to hear that, but I'll try. If I get a chance, I'll try to branch out.
Are you a pumpkin seed kind of guy?
I like pumpkin seeds. Yeah.
Yeah, pumpkin seed. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pumpkin seeds are off the charts in terms of nutritional value. Like I can hear this every year about how good they are for you to eat. So Frank, you'll probably want to eat pockets full of them.
Oh, I have some. I try not to eat the shells because that's actually can be bad sometimes. But this could go down a whole nother tangent of soaking your nuts, and I don't think we should go there right now, based on the fact that we're dressed like we are. But we could talk about soaking your nuts some other time. Maybe I'm talking about almonds, and I just read about pistachios, which I love. If you don't soak them, they can cause harm. Anyway, whole nother podcast, I feel like. But I do like pumpkin related seeds and things. Anyway, all right, switching gears. Wow, that went deep down a tangent. Let's talk about another company that's doing a lot for the AI industry, Nvidia. For those of you not familiar, they make chips and they power a lot of the generative AI that's happening right now. And they just released an open source LLM, and it's rival to ChatGPT. It's interesting. It's been out for it wasn't just released. It's been out for a few months, like I'd say like 3 or 4 months, right? It started like I remember reading about it in like March or something. But it's now out with another version. It's open source, which is different from ChatGPT. ChatGPT started as open source, and now it's kind of switching gears and going more towards private, right? And it obviously there's advantages to that, right? The open source model allows for anyone to access the code and the data, and more people can get involved. It allows for diversity in AI, and obviously breeds competition, improvement as well. So thoughts? Anybody have any thoughts on this? And John, you brought this to our attention, so I want to make sure I give you a shot.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a Nvidia stockholder, so I think I probably have to mention that. Hopefully it helps bump my stock in the right direction. But I've seen some statistics out there that say that this is actually that it's a little bit better and outperforming OpenAI,
All right,
or ChatGPT in a few different areas. I don't remember where I saw that exactly, but point being is it looks pretty amazing, and diversity in that field is good. I tried to download it earlier today, and it was a 2-hour download because you actually have to download the chat bot onto your CPU.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't going to wait 2 hours to download it, but I'd like to play with it when I get a chance.
Yeah, definitely a barrier, right? Like it's not like my mom's not going to download this and try it, right? She can easily get on OpenAI and get that service and use that, right? So I think that's
Paulette may try, actually.
She might try to download it. You're right.
Yeah,
she probably has it already.
She's probably built an app.
Yeah.
Sometimes she surprises us.
She does. Yeah. So anywho, there's a possibility this one could have a little barrier of entry, right? For some folks, right? It's not quite out there as easily accessible, but it does allow for more people to get involved, more development, and open source, has done really well in the past. And we're going to talk about in a second. Anybody else have anything about the video? Because I want to switch gears if we don't. Okay. Open source in general has done really well. There's a company called WordPress, which you may be familiar with, you may not, but it powers a majority of the websites on the internet, and it was an open source project. Matt Mullenweg started when he was in his teens, and has grown it to literally a humongous company called Automatic, and has done really well. And so I think there's that approach, whereas before that there were site builders, and there still are, right? There's a lot of different platforms that are doing all this similar stuff, but they haven't gotten as far as fast. So I think that's the interesting thing around open source related projects. Some more open source projects are as good as the motivation / excitement around them too. That's the other thing that's tough with can go good or bad, right? But switching gears, talking about open source and Matt, because he was actually in the news recently, because there's a lot of companies that have built things that are related to WordPress or off of WordPress, hosting services and ability to do things within WordPress to host your sites more easily, or they've kind of used the brand in different ways. And one of those companies is WP Engine, and he just really recently kind of quote unquote went nuclear, according to this article, on them, because they've been doing a lot to take advantage of in his mind WordPress in general over the course of the last few decades. And we've known we're WP Engine for a while. We used to use it back in the day for a bit, and so long story short, I hate to see this kind of thing happen in an open source kind of community, but obviously, you know, he's alleging that WP Engine's, profited off of WordPress's branding without really giving back to the open source project, which, that's probably a fair argument. They're not an open source, for-profit company. So, whereas WordPress is an open source project. So anyway, Jen, do you have any thoughts on, Matt and the whole WordPress situation?
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I think I met Matt when he was in his teens. I think he was like 18 or something. I met him. He's running this company for so long. And I think he has a really good natural instinct. And I feel like they've worked together for a long time. And his heart has always been in the right place when it comes to open source, the community, leading that company in the right direction. And I think they've done incredible things. So, like you said, I hate to see this happen. Like I remember when WP Engine was first launched and we had friends who were part of it, and, we started using it, and, it's been a long history, but I trust Matt's instincts in terms of, their direction and what's going on. And I hope they get it resolved quickly, and it doesn't devolve into something that would, just leave a mark on either company in too much of a negative way.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else want to add anything, or want to move on? We got another fun fact coming up here.
What I was going to mention is I found it surprisingly interesting that WordPress powers roughly 40% of all websites on the
I think it's
internet
higher than
right
that,
now.
isn't it? I thought it was like 8.
I think it used to be higher. It's probably come down a bit.
Oh, okay.
I know
Yeah.
this MSNBC article said 40%, so I'm going to
Wow.
go with that for right now, which is still
A lot.
crazy amount, right?
Mhm.
Number one, and number two is, in my opinion, I mean, I received the WP Engine updates and emails and newsletters, and I think he has a good case. I always thought it was WP Engines was a WordPress product of some sort, or partner at least, and I know that they do, integrate with WordPress, but I was pretty certain that it was, a WordPress branded product. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, those lawsuits are oftentimes hard to, it's a huge distraction for a company owner. So hopefully he gets through it.
Yeah, that's the bummer of the whole thing. All right, so moving on here, Simon, you got a fun fact. What's the next Halloween fun fact? Or I shouldn't say Simon, I should say Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Yeah.
Well, Clark, thank you. I have a candy corn fun fact, otherwise known as the grossest candy ever to exist. So it's a staple of Halloween, as we all know. It was originally called Chicken Feed. It was first created in the 1880s by Wonderly Candy Company. Chicken Feed, presumably because it looks like chicken feed or tastes like chicken feed. Love it or hate it, approximately 35 million pounds of candy corn are produced each year. So someone's eating way more than their fair share of, well, obviously in total, but still, that's an insane amount of candy corn. So 35 million pounds are being produced each year for Halloween. They got to go somewhere. Someone's eating them. I hope they're okay.
I can't imagine what that would even look like. Is that like, could you imagine like the vault of candy corn? Like that just is, I mean, that's a lot, man. That's a lot of candy corn. I agree. And
yeah.
I used to like that stuff. It's just so sweet now. It's just pure sugar.
I would say that 35 million pounds is going directly into all the, 15-year and younger demographic.
Do you like candy corn, Jen?
I like to eat maybe 2 pieces a year. It's like a nostalgia thing. I don't really enjoy it at all. I just, it's around, and so I'll have a bite or two, and then I'm like, same thing like at Easter, I'll have like a bite of a peep, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good for another year. Like, it's just, I think, like a pure nostalgia.
Yeah, I'm the same. I like to eat like one little bite, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I know why I don't buy more of this. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, little one loves it. Little kids love it. So I think that's part of why it's holding true. And obviously looks kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of an interesting design, and they did this years ago. So, that's held up, I guess, pretty well. All right. So moving along, we're going to switch gears, talk about sports for a second, but actually more like sports technology. We're going to talk about the NFL and helmets. So, some of the NFL players have been wearing something called the guardian caps during their practices to reduce head injuries. They've had a lot of more publicity recently in the last few years around concussions and what that can, the regular hits can do to people when they're playing a sport that has contact. And it's not just in football. I mean, it could be in any sport that has potential head-to-head contact. So, but football is the one where they actually wear helmets most, and hockey is another one, right? But yeah. So anyway, these helmets go on top of a football helmet. And they make the helmet look bigger and protects the head more. And I think I read like 60% more protection if you wear this helmet versus if you didn't. And I feel like it can reduce head concussions and injuries. And I don't know. I just feel like literally this is like something that the helmets already look so ridiculous anyway, in my opinion. And I'm sure when they first introduced like the metal helmet, that looked ridiculous. When they first introduced the leather helmet, that looked ridiculous. So why not just introduce the darn Guardian helmet and save some people some brain power? It seems like a no-brainer to me, but I would love to get your guys' take on this topic.
I would say especially, I mean, NFL, great. How about also like immediately introducing that to all youth sports, right? We were just watching something that showed, kids, high school, younger, they are repeatedly smashing head to head. It just happens. And their helmets are no safer, right? So I don't know, in my mind as a parent now, I just, we were just watching some high school football the other day, and all I could think of was, shouldn't they all have this extra protection?
Yeah, no, I agree. It should be all the way up, and it shouldn't just be football. It could be, other sports too. As you look at, where are the most reoccurring issues with concussion syndrome and all that. So, John, as a football player, and you got some little ones that still play and are learning game and everything. Want to get your take as well.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this one, but I'm about as old school as it gets. But I don't see why you wouldn't, if there's something that's more protective than others, why they wouldn't implement that. I would, the amount of money that the NFL has spent on CTE lawsuits and concussion protocol over the past couple of years, it's been a huge priority for them. I would, and Frank, I wanted to actually, I don't know if you've noticed, but a couple of NFL players have worn them during the actual games, not even only during practice.
Oh yeah, no, I've noticed that. I'm like, why do they just not all wear them? They all look ridiculous anyway. Like, just make a little bit more padding. Like, who cares?
It's not been mandatory yet, but I think it's going to move in that direction. I'm sure right now they have to, sign some forms, waivers that they don't want to use it because. Otherwise, I think everybody would be. If you're showing statistics that say something like you had mentioned, 60% more. I
think it was 60. Can you look that up? Somebody looked that up real quick. I'm pretty sure it was, but it wasn't here in front of me.
Regardless, I mean, there is some sort of, they wouldn't be wearing them if it wasn't more protective. So I think we're moving in that direction. I mean, they look a little bit more ridiculous, but once people start wearing them, I mean, I shouldn't say even ridiculous. I don't think they look ridiculous. I think they look fine. They just look a little different. But as soon as you make that mandatory, everybody will fall in line, and whatever we can do to protect our athletes, I think we need to, because it's one of those things too. Like you look at the I can never say his last name, Tua Tagovailoa situation in Miami, where he wants to do everything he can for his teammates and his team and the fan base to get back out there and play as soon as possible. I mean, Lord knows what that guy's doing to his brain right now. Right. For those who are not familiar, he's had a number of concussions, and he keeps coming back, and then he gets another concussion. So I think he has like 3 or 4 documented concussions, but every time they're bad. I mean, he looks like he's dead out there on the field. So,
wow.
I think they're going to move to this sooner rather than later.
Well, I just did a little research because I thought it was 60%. I actually looked at there was a table that I saw that said one player, if you reduces it by 10%, 2 players using them reduces it by 20%. And then the third one is smaller players reduces by 33%. I added them all together and made 60%. So I did the math in my head, I guess, but it's actually between 10 and 33%. But still, that's a huge change. Like, if you're having major issues, and there have been people having major issues. Look at like Justin Field over at Pittsburgh. I know he's an ex-Bear, now you're a Steeler fan. He had a concussion like a week ago or something and had to sit out for a little while. The Bears have had guys with concussions. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like you said, it's not that much of a difference from a look perspective. And like I said before, like people used to wear like leather helmets, like, and I'm sure when they shifted to like metal, people were like, well, what is that? That's crazy. You know,
Yeah.
like
Well, we can talk in medical terms, or we can
yeah.
talk about what just seems right.
Mhm.
But a lot of times it comes down to money. And you
Mhm.
think about it, like I was mentioning Tua earlier, I think he just signed one of the largest NFL contracts of all time. And this player potentially is going to have to, um, retire early, and their team's going to be out, I think, like
Yeah.
120 million or something like that. So you tell
Yeah.
that to an NFL player, look, we could reduce this by up to 33%, or you're going to lose $120 million.
Mhm.
Every owner is making every player wear these things next week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just oftentimes it comes down to money, unfortunately. And I could probably make a good proposal to you all right now that you'd want to have those players
Well,
in those caps.
I would strongly urge the NFL to just make it mandatory. They said according to the NFL, players who wore the Guardian caps experienced 52% decrease in concussions compared to the previous 3 off seasons. So I don't know. I just feel like it seems like a no-brainer, like I said, and could save people save their lives basically, because some of this stuff turns into suicides and things of that nature, real bad mental health that happens from the brain deteriorating. So, all right. So I think that we said our piece. I think we're voting Guardian caps all day. Wear them, be safe. I can wear them in the off season, all off season too, if you want, whatever makes sense.
I should probably get one for when I go skiing.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing I was thinking about. Other
Hiking,
sports. Yeah.
you name it. Give me a sport. I want that.
Right. No, it isn't just, it isn't. I mean, I was even thinking soccer the other day when, kids are hitting their heads on the ball and on each other, and
Lacrosse, right?
lacrosse. Yeah, there's a lot of sports that are contact sports that we don't think of as much of a contact sport as football. And it's just like, it just seems like there's not the right protection out there for this kind of stuff. And I'd hate to see, we're finding out more and more about brain health and the importance of brain health. And yeah, it just seems like we should be doing more to protect. So I'm calling any entrepreneurs, innovators out there, continue to innovate on this. Hopefully we can make them not look as, I guess, bulky, if that's what we're gonna call it, as they are now, but continue to improve. And obviously bike helmets is another one too, right? So just there's a lot of uses for these types of things as we move forward. So remember the movie Inception, sci-fi movie? Anybody seen that? All right. Well, 2 people, according to this recent breakthrough by REM Space, a neurotechnology startup, have achieved the first successful communication between 2 people during lucid dreaming. So this marks a historic milestone in dream research. So very dreamy. We were talking about dreams and hallucinations earlier. I feel like this is a good tie-in. Could you imagine if we could like send messages back and forth while we're dreaming? That's pretty crazy.
That's nuts. It's crazy. There's a lot of cool in the movie Inception. Like they said that the origin of the technology was for like soldiers to start training on killing each other in their dreams. So I could see a lot of potential applications of this. I'm not sure because that same study talks about how they came up with like a dream specific language that they could like quote unquote speak during their REM sleep. And I'd be really curious to know how that possibly works, that language.
Yeah, no, you mentioned one of the most interesting points was the creation of this, I don't know, I may say it wrong, but it was like Remio language, which allows for, the decoding of sounds produced in dreams. And this kind of opens up the door then for the advancement of, real-time interactive conversations in lucid dreams, which it's just, I can't believe that we're even talking about this. This seems like totally off the wall, but really cool that they're moving forward with this with REM space, and I'm sure there's other companies doing similar things, but could be interesting from like applications in mental health therapy, skill training. Like what if we went to sleep and we could like learn something really cool, like in the Matrix or whatever. Like we go to sleep and we next thing you know I'm really good at like I'm a ninja or something. Like that'd be pretty neat. Nunchucks is like my thing now. And anyway, I'm going there, like, or you wanted to like play the guitar or whatever it is, like you could learn that in the middle of the night, learn a new language. And then obviously the interactions that could happen within a dream, like if all of a sudden we're dreaming and working together, maybe we work when we sleep, and when we're awake we just I don't know, do whatever we want. So
when do we rest?
well, you rest while yeah, that's a great point. I don't know how that would work. Yeah, I guess if we're, oh no, does this open up the door for a 24-hour workday?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Oh.
I was like, so wait a minute. We're always saying like, oh, well, there's only so much I can do right, during the week and during daylight. And so now all of a sudden do you have this like sort of, I mean, it's not 24/7, it's during a specific portion of your sleep, but it just had me thinking like, can anything, I remember for so long I loved flying, right? Because when I was on an airplane, I couldn't be reached. I couldn't do, there was sort of like I could read, I could unplug, but now when you fly, you're kind of expected to just continue on. Now when you sleep, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, and then they introduce advertising.
Ooh, yes.
Ad walls in your dreams would be a pretty unfortunate development.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm craving these cookies so much. I really love these cookies. What happened? Like that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. But yeah, let's talk about policies. There's gonna be some work there. But cool first steps. Obviously, we're quite a ways away from some of the stuff we're talking about, but it does really make you think about some of the opportunity or some of the things that could happen. All right, moving along here. Fun fact, Halloween fun fact. Johnny, what do you got?
I'm here to talk about the financial implications on tourism, right? Most of these haunted tourist attractions, many of the locations become popular Halloween destinations. For example, Salem, Massachusetts, right, where the witch trials took place back in the 1600s. They draw thousands of visitors every October. I've actually visited there, not during October, but and quick side note that my dad has a close friend whose great, who knows how long, grandmother was one of the people that was unfortunately hung or killed during those witch trials.
Oh my god!
And he told me about that right as I was like looking at the place where it happened, and there was her name, Rebecca Nurse, right there. I think it was like the first or second person that was hung or killed during those witch trials, which was pretty eerie, and my hair stood up on end when I heard that. So,
Was she a witch?
well, I don't think any of them were witches, Simon, but she was accused of being a witch, and she was
Well, you're speaking to
killed for it.
Harry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Harry. Yes,
We have witches in my part of the woods. Not to be
she
trusted.
she was a Hogwarts alum.
Yeah, don't be frightened here by this talk here, Harry. This is not going to happen to you.
Yeah, I feel bad saying that, but there's other weird places like the Winchester Mansion, which my mother went through. It was designed by. It's just a really weird thing. And then last but not least is, and this is kind of a weird story, 3 miles away from me, Indiana's most prolific serial killer. They found at least 26 men killed in his backyard, and they're finding more and more bodies to this day. And every year around Halloween time, they open it up to the public to go through it. But it's really creepy because it's legitimately 3 miles away, and I have to pass it to go to like all of the grocery stores and stuff. So like we pretty frequently pass this house. It's Herb Baumeister's house.
Wow.
And it's really creepy when you drive by.
Now, why do people want to go through the house? Is there anything interesting about the house, or is it just like some?
It's a big old horse farm, and they do like ghost tours, and they take in like these little, what is it, like EMF readers and stuff like that, and they try to talk to the ghosts and that sort of thing. So kind of spooky. I kind of somewhat disrespectful to the people that were murdered and buried in his backyard, I feel, but still spooky when I drive by. So I have not taken the tour. I probably won't take the tour.
All right, switching gears off of that topic. That is haunting. It is the Halloween edition, though. I should mind, if anyone's jumping in just to that segment, this is not the true crime episode. It's the Halloween edition. And some of the things we've been testing, I've been testing being a superhuman, but also an actual app called Superhuman. And it's a mail client. It's been out for a while, but it does leverage AI, and it's supposed to improve your productivity and essentially make getting through your inbox easier, better experience and all that. So I've been testing it out, and it has been more efficient as far as getting through things. You've got a lot of short codes and things like that. So check it out. We'll leave a link in the newsletter or in the show notes if you want to check it out and try it out. It is paid service, but I feel like so far it's been worth it. Moving on, we're watched the Northern Lights the other day. It was pretty much everywhere, I feel like, or in the northern part, I guess, of the United States, you could see it. It's pretty phenomenal to be able to just go outside and see it. Did anyone see it here?
Yeah, I saw him in Brooklyn.
No, nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really nice.
It's amazing. Yeah, we saw them here vaguely, but also the supermoon. which has been incredibly bright the past couple nights.
Yep. And there was a
Harvest.
comet too that came through yesterday or day before or recently, and it's not coming back for 80,000 years. So hopefully you got to see that as well, because
Oh, wow.
it's going to be a while. All right, John, did you have anything?
Yeah, we've been watching a few things on Netflix. Midnight Mass, which is definitely a spooky show. I think it came out a few years ago. Did anybody watch that on this
No.
channel? No, it's Simon, did you see it?
Yeah, that's
It's
all.
it's pretty creepy, huh?
It's really spooky. Yeah, very scary.
Yeah. It's a couple years old, but it's definitely a Halloween watch. So it's a limited series on Netflix, so give it a shot if you want. It's very spooky. I'm not going to say anything more because it'll kind of give it away. So, and then there's another series we've been watching. Nobody Wants This on Netflix. Anybody seen that one?
No.
Is that the Kristen Bell one?
Yeah, Kristen Bell. She plays a woman that's dating a rabbi. And basically, he tells her that he cannot marry her unless she becomes Jewish. And so it's the reason I bring it up too is also because there's the woman that wrote the movie reposted one of my Instagram posts one time. So I felt like I was closely connected to the show for some reason. But yeah, it's kind of an easy watch. And Kristen Bell's in it if you like Kristen Bell. So
All right. Jen.
I have I'm like perpetually behind. I'm still I think I'm caught up on Only Murders in the Building, but I am really looking forward to Shrinking, because I think Shrinking is either back out or coming back out very, very
it's out.
soon. And I love that show.
Drinking is on Apple TV, and it's about season 2. So go check that out. There's a couple episodes out. Just started this week or a couple days ago. All right, moving along. Anyone reading anything?
I am rereading the Narnia series. So for any of you who ever read like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I want to get my daughter into it. And so I just thought maybe I should just reread the whole series just to have a good sense of what's in there, because it's been so long. And I want to see if it holds up. So just started with The Magician's Nephew, which is book 1 in the series.
And very appropriate for the Halloween edition, as you're talking about Lions and
It
Witches,
is.
wardrobes. Yeah, very good. All right, moving along. We're at time. Thanks everyone for being a part of this Halloween edition. I've got one more fun fact, and then we'll roll out here. For those of you, we talked about pumpkins and pumpkin things. Everyone want to know the largest pumpkin that ever has grown? Well, not that ever has grown, but has ever measured, was actually in 2021 in New Hampshire. 2,624 pounds, 24.6 pounds. So 2,624.6 pounds. And it was quite a large pumpkin, and it's roughly the size of a small car. So that's a big pumpkin. And then more recently, just this year, like last week or the week before, Maine state record was broken with basically a 2,365 pound pumpkin. So that's another big pumpkin, and obviously can make a lot of pumpkin pies for Costco with that. All right. On that note, everyone have a happy Halloween out there. Be safe. Get those costumes and enjoy the season. Now you know a little bit more about the history on this special edition of the Somewhat Frank podcast, the Halloween edition. Be safe out there, everybody. Happy Halloween. Thanks for listening to the Somewhat Frank podcast. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and leave us a review. We love the feedback and are grateful to have you as a listener. Have a great day.